don't think I only speak for myself when I say how much I hate funerals. I've only been to one, and I was basically a baby when I went to it, so I really didn't feel the full effects. When a loved one or a close friend passes, it is expected that you be at their funeral. And I understand why. The funeral's for the living, to support those who are alive. Recently, an unexpected death happened in my family. I don't know the person very well, and I don't really care about them. I didn't shed a tear, and as an introvert, I am reeling right now because I'm expected to attend a funeral that I have no intention of attending. You see, my grandmother married 3 times. The first marriage was, well, issues. The second one, unfortunately, that beautiful Irish man passed away. I considered him my grandpa because at the time I didn't know my real grandpa, who is, at the time of making this video, still alive and 104 years old. Anyway, my grandma's third husband was okay. He was an INTJ musician. Now, I love INTJs. I absolutely do. They're my favorite personality, and for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about people like Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, Hannibal Lecter, Sherlock Holmes with Benedict Cumberbatch, or, honestly, basically most of the villainous masterminds in cartoons and movies, which honestly is both a compliment and an insult to the INTJ because it compliments them that they're super smart and worthy opponent and a deadly threat if they decide to take over the world, but on the flip side, they would already see through all the future possibilities and whether or not the risk is worth the reward to not even try to take over the world because the military would then take them out, and if they were going to do something like that, you bet their ass that they would think it through so nobody would catch them or beat them. Like in Despicable Me, the villain guy. He's an INTJ. My husband is one too. Anyways, off topic. So that's what I mean by that. And this guy was that, but he was the all the way to the end of the spectrum boring type of INTJ. And maybe he was more boring to me because we had nothing in common. He was very old, and I like old people if they have some kind of knowledge to impart, but he was more into his trombone, which is all he did. Whenever we tried to have a conversation about anything else, he just struck me as adorable, but very boring. Like a turtle. They're so cute, but they really have nothing to offer in terms of stimulating entertainment, unless they're having sex, with each other. And don't judge me for watching, because you'd sit down and watch too. Anyways, on top of that, we've only seen each other like 3 times with the exception of me having attended the wedding between him and my grandmother. As far as I knew, the guy was fine, and then all of a sudden I get a text saying he's dead. I was shocked, but not to the point where I wanted to cry, and I found myself wondering if I was an evil person because I wasn't crying, but that's like me crying if you tell somebody that somebody down the road got their car repoed. Now I'm expected to attend a funeral to honor someone I barely knew, and yes, while he was married to my grandmother, the thing is, I barely know her too. It's not like we have this great relationship. The only thing I remember about her is that I was very unhappy when I stayed with her when I was very young, and my mom came all the way from 2 states away to pick me up because she too did not have the best relationship with my grandmother. She never stopped me from seeing her, but she also knew that there was a chance I would want to come home after staying at her house. And she was right. My grandmother is a great person to her neighbors and to her friends, and she's a lot better than what she was when she was younger, but as a family member, she really doesn't feel like my grandmother. She lost that chance a long time ago. She used to send me money and cards and stuff, but what grandmother doesn't? It's not like it was even that much money anyway. The best thing she ever did for me was later on in my life when she gave me a car she didn't want anymore. It was my first car, and it was very special to me. It was a 96 Lincoln Mercury Cougar limited edition Thunderbird, and she had been the only owner and kept very good care of it. It was a black car, had leather seats, and a beautiful V8 engine that also guzzled up a lot of gas, and everybody they came across wanted it. I did not want to give up my Thunderbird. I actually got the woman who wanted it to try and buy something else, and she insisted on buying my car. And so that's the best thing that I remember about my grandma. I knew that the car was tied to her. Other than that, I just feel weird when I'm around her, to be honest. So in my mind, I'm like, why should I go to this funeral again? In my mind, I'm thinking logically now that I'm no longer a kid. All the adults are going to start getting old, and all their parents are going to start dying off. Doesn't it make sense to save the really important funerals for the really important people to me that I actually care about? I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just being serious. It doesn't help that I also live 4 hours away, and I also work, so it's hard for me to stay there for more than a day. If either of my parents dies after we settle things, they're coming back to stay with me for a while. I'm not staying over there. I like being in the comfort of my own home, and besides, why would they want to stay in a house that reminds them of the person they just lost? One of the hardest things for me, because I'm so nice, I know it doesn't seem like it because I'm always venting on the channel, but in reality, I care care, or at least I want to show that I care about people. I don't like hurting people's feelings. I'm the kind of person that would rather a person die than to hurt their feelings, or so I can get out of having to confront them. I absorb people's emotions, so I feel very heavily, and it's very stressful. I have a pink plush worm thing with googly eyes that I named Yoshi, and I started crying when I accidentally dropped him on the floor, or when my dog bit his tail off. Yeah, I'm borderline crazy, but who isn't these days? The point is I'm trying to concoct a good enough excuse so that I don't make the person feel bad. But I don't want to attend a funeral. One of the hardest things about being so nice is that you can't just tell people no. I have to close off my feelings altogether to get to that side of myself, and do I really want to do that with a family member? The thing is, if I don't go, my grandmother may never talk to me again, but that would make me so happy. With my relatives, I really don't like talking to them. I don't like talking to people in general. They're amazing people, honestly. Most of them are. I just really don't like talking to people. I love them, and when I earn enough money, I'll be happy to help them financially sometimes. But if I never need to be obligated to speak to any of them, I would be so relieved. The only people that I care enough to speak to and actually miss as relatives is my daddy. My twin brothers and my cousins, I don't really miss them. I just have things in common with them, so I don't feel bad because I can just reach out to them and tell them when the newest Pokemon game came out or something that has to do with gaming or anime that we like. But I don't miss them. I actually miss my father. My mother, I love my mother. I just don't really miss her as much, and maybe that's because she wasn't around for 8 years of my life. Maybe it's because she was in America when I was with my dad in my other country, so I kind of lost that bond with her. But I've always been with my dad, and I'm his only girl, so there's that bond. I think when I lose my father, that will be the hardest loss for me, aside from losing my dog, that is, that I just lost last year. So the funeral thing has put a lot of stress on me, and now I'm wondering what to say. Did the car break down? But if I say that, then they're gonna know either I'm making an excuse because I have a very nice sporty car, and they're gonna start asking questions like, well, what'd you do to it, or why'd you get that car if it gives you problems. It's gonna look pretty convenient if it's near the day when I have to go. I even asked my dad and other family members if they're going, because if I at least have one other person that's not going, I have an excuse not to go too. My dad's not going, so wonderful. Honestly, the way he says it, he just really doesn't want to go. Neither do I. Of course, I'm not going to straight come out and say, yeah, grandma, sucks to be you, I can't come. I'm still gonna send her a bouquet. It would be different if she was like an hour or 30 minutes away, but it's a 4-hour drive with traffic, 4 hours one way. Could be over that for someone I barely know, and to morally support a grandmother I barely have a relationship with. So there's no justifying it, because I'm gonna catch flack from my mom, and I have to mentally prepare myself and rehearse what I'm gonna say. Mom, I don't know her, and I want to reserve that time that I can take off if something happens to somebody who is actually close to me. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the coldest or the most direct. Jesus Christ, you don't know how I've been feeling this past week. I spoke on the phone with my grandmother, and I'm telling her how sorry I am that she lost her husband, and then while she's mourning, she tells me that she'd like to at least see me at the funeral, and my response is just, aw, Grandma. I really do hate these awkward situations where you have to feel obligated to do something. I'm at the point where I'm growing up and I'm realizing that, you know what, it's my life and screw what people think about you. I reserve my honest feelings for those I actually really care about. Now, if I was extremely close to my grandmother, maybe I would go a little bit more out of my way to do this, but I just got another part-time job on the side working for someone else because the person who is currently doing that job has cancer. This person did a lot for me, so I kind of still owe them, even though I'm getting paid for it, and let's be honest, the money is a motivator, and they're still alive, you know? As I said, aside from those people who are close to me, I don't see myself being a funeral person. I think the whole thing with funerals is just annoying. When I'm dead, I don't want people brooding over a casket. I want them to have a party and celebrate the life that I have and to be happy that I'm gone, because at this point, it really won't matter to me. And for the people who are mourning, I'm sorry, but that grieving shit is something that you do in private. I wouldn't want to spend 4 hours hanging around a whole bunch of people dressed in black like goblins, keeping me sad. Unless you're gonna take me out to a movie or distract me or something, what is the point? I'm gonna mourn when you're gone. Why do I want to mourn when you're there? It would just make me so uncomfortable being around people because I can't mourn in peace. I really don't want to be that person, but I don't feel like I can attend funerals. I don't want to stay for very long either. When my parents die or whoever dies, I will go to the funeral, but I'm not staying there for like 3 hours listening to a whole shindig so I can burst out crying like a bear, forcing its winter blockage of constipation in front of a whole bunch of people. No. I still have to live with those people or see them. Mourning is a very private thing for me, so the whole idea of funerals and people dressed in black pretending to mourn with you just skeeves me out. God almighty. One thing's for sure, I've already made up my mind I'm not going, and since I no longer live with my parents, nobody can force me, and it's a really good feeling.